The Democratic Republic of the Congo, also known as Dr. Congo, DRC, DROC, RDC, Congo-Kinshasa, or simply Congo, is a country located in Central Africa. From 1971 to 1997 it was named Zaire. The DRC borders the Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, and South Sudan to the north, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi and Tanzania to the east, Zambia and Angola to the south, and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. It is the second largest country in Africa by area and the 11th largest in the world. With a population of over 75 million, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is the most populated officially francophone country, the fourth most populated nation in Africa and the 19th most populated country in the world. The Congolese civil wars, which began in 1996, brought about the end of Mobutu Sese Seko's 31-year reign and devastated the country. The wars ultimately involved 9 African nations, multiple groups of UN peacekeepers and 20 armed groups, and resulted in the deaths of 5.4 million people. The Democratic Republic of Congo is extremely rich in natural resources, but political instability, a lack of infrastructure, deep-rooted corruption, and centuries of both commercial and colonial extraction and exploitation have limited holistic development. Besides the capital, Kinshasa, the other major cities, Lubumbashi and Mbuji-Mayi, are both mining communities. Dr. Congo's largest export is raw minerals, with China accepting over 50% of DRC's exports in 2012. As of 2013, according to the Human Development Index, DR Congo has a low level of human development, ranking 186 out of 187 countries. Etymology. The Democratic Republic of the Congo was formerly known as, in chronological order, Congo Free State, Belgian Congo, Republic of the Congo, Republic of Zaire and Democratic Republic of the Congo. The country was known officially as the Democratic Republic of the Congo from 1965 to 1971. When it was changed to the Republic of Zaire in 1992. The Sovereign National Conference voted to change the name of the country to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but the change was not put into practice. The country's name was restored by former President Laurent Kabila following the fall of longtime dictator Mobutu Sese Seko in 1997. History. Early history. The area now known as the Dr. Congo was populated as early as 80,000 years ago, as shown by the 1988 discovery of the Semliki harpoon at Katanda, one of the oldest barbed harpoons ever found, and which is believed to have been used to catch giant river catfish. Some historians think that Bantu peoples began settling in the extreme northwest of Central Africa at the beginning of the 5th century and then gradually started to expand southward. Their propagation was accelerated by the transition from Stone Age to Iron Age techniques. The people living in the south and southwest were mostly San Bushmen and hunter-gatherer groups, whose technology involved only minimal use of metal technologies. The development of metal tools during this time period revolutionized agriculture and animal husbandry. This led to the displacement of the hunter-gatherer groups in the east and southeast. The 10th century marked the final expansion of the Bantu in West-Central Africa. Rising populations soon made possible intricate local, regional and foreign commercial networks that traded mostly in salt, iron and copper. Congo Free State. Belgian exploration and administration took place from the 1870s until the 1920s. It was first led by Sir Henry Morton Stanley, who undertook his explorations under the sponsorship of King Leopold II of Belgium. The eastern regions of the pre-colonial Congo were heavily disrupted by constant slave raiding, mainly from Arab Swahili slave traders such as the infamous Tipu Tip, who was well known to Stanley. Leopold had designs on what was to become the Congo as a colony. In a succession of negotiations, Leopold, professing humanitarian objectives in his capacity as chairman of the Front Organisation Association Internationale Africaine, actually played one European rival against another. Leopold formally acquired rights to the Congo territory at the Conference of Berlin in 1885 and made the land his private property and named it the Congo Free State. Leopold's regime began various infrastructure projects, such as construction of the railway that ran from the coast to the capital of Leopoldville. It took 8 years to complete. Nearly all such projects were aimed at increasing the assets which Leopold and his associates could extract from the colony. In the Free State, colonists brutalized the local population to produce rubber, for which the spread of automobiles and development of rubber tires created a growing international market. The sale of rubber made a fortune for Leopold, who built several buildings in Brussels and Ostend to honor himself and his country. To enforce the rubber quotas, the army, the force publique, was called in and made the practice of cutting off the limbs of the natives a matter of policy. During the period of 1885 to 1908, millions of Congolese died as a consequence of exploitation and disease. In some areas the population declined dramatically. It has been estimated that sleeping sickness and smallpox killed nearly half the population in the areas surrounding the lower Congo River. A government commission later concluded that the population of the Congo had been reduced by half during this period. But determining precisely how many people died is impossible, as no accurate records exist. Belgian Congo in 1908, the Belgian Parliament, despite initial reluctance, bowed to international pressure and took over the Free State from King Leopold II. On 18 October 1908, the Belgian Parliament voted in favor of annexing the Congo as a Belgian colony. Executive power rested with the Belgian Minister of Colonial Affairs, assisted by a colonial council, and the Belgian Parliament exercised legislative authority over the Belgian Congo. In 1926, the colonial capital moved from Boma to Leopoldville, some 300 kilometers further upstream in the interior. The transition from the Congo Free State to the Belgian Congo was a break, but it was also marked by a large degree of continuity. The last Governor-General of the Congo Free State, Baron Wihis, remained in office in the Belgian Congo, and the majority of Leopold II's administration with him. Opening up the Congo and its natural and mineral riches for the Belgian economy remained the main motive for colonial expansion. However, other priorities, such as healthcare and basic education, slowly gained in importance. Colonial administrators ruled the territory and a dual legal system existed. Indigenous courts had only limited powers and remained under the firm control of the colonial administration. In 1936 it was recorded that there were 728 Belgian administrators controlling the colony. No political activity was permitted in the Congo whatsoever, and the Force Publique, a locally recruited army under Belgian command, put down any attempts at rebellion. The Belgian population of the colony increased from 1,928 in 1910 to nearly 89,000 in 1959. The Belgian Congo was directly involved in the two world wars. During World War I, an initial standoff between the Force Publique and the German colonial army in German East Africa turned into open warfare, with a joint Anglo-Belgian invasion of German colonial territory in 1916 and 1917 during the East African Campaign. The Force Publique gained a notable victory when it marched into Tabora in September 1916, under the command of General Charles Toomer after heavy fighting. After the war, Belgium was rewarded for the participation of the Force Publique in the East African Campaign with the League of Nations mandate over the former German colony of Rwanda-Urundi. During World War II, the Belgian Congo was a crucial source of income for the Belgian government in exile in London. The Force Publique again participated in the Allied campaigns in Africa. Belgian Congolese forces under the command of Belgian officers notably fought against the Italian colonial army in Ethiopia in Assosa, Portai and Sio under Major General Auguste-Edouard Gillet during the Second East African Campaign. Independence and political crisis. In May 1960, a growing nationalist movement, the Mouvement National Congolais or MNC Party, led by Patrice Lumumba, won the parliamentary elections. Patrice Lumumba thus became the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The parliament elected as President Joseph Kasavubu, of the Alliance des Bas-Congo Party. Other parties that emerged included the Parti Solidaire Africain led by Antoine Gizenga, and the Parti National du Peuple led by Albert Delvox and Laurent Mabarico. The Belgian Congo achieved independence on 30 June 1960 under the name of République du Congo. Shortly after independence, the provinces of Katanga and South Kasai engaged in secessionist struggles against the new leadership. Most of the 100,000 Europeans who had remained behind after independence fled the country, opening the way for Congolese to replace the European military and administrative elite. As the neighboring French colony of Middle Congo also chose the name Republic of Congo upon achieving its independence. The two countries were more commonly known as Congo Leopoldville and Congo Brazzaville after their capital cities. On 5 September 1960, Kasavubu dismissed Lumumba from office. Lumumba declared Kasavubu's action unconstitutional and a crisis between the two leaders developed. On 14 September, Lumumba was arrested by forces loyal to Joseph Mobutu. On 17 January 1961, he was handed over to Katangan authorities and executed by Belgian-led Katangese troops. Amidst widespread confusion and chaos, a temporary government was led by technicians with Evariste Kimba. The Katanga secession was ended in January 1963 with the assistance of UN forces. Several short-lived governments, of Joseph Ilio, Cyril Adula, and Moise Sombe, took over in quick succession. Lumumba had previously appointed Joseph Mobutu chief of staff of the new Congo Army, Armée Écoutée Nationale Congolaise. Taking advantage of the leadership crisis between Kasavubu and Lumumba, Mobutu garnered enough support within the army to create mutiny. With financial support from the United States and Belgium, Mobutu paid his soldiers privately. The aversion of Western powers to communism and leftist ideology influenced their decision to finance Mobutu's quest to maintain order in the new state by neutralizing Kasavubu and Lumumba in a coup by proxy. A constitutional referendum after Mobutu's coup of 1965 resulted in the country's official name being changed to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In 1971, Mobutu changed the name again, this time to Republic of Zaire. Zaire, the new president, had the support of the United States because of his staunch opposition to communism, believing that his administration would serve as an effective counter to communist movements in Africa. A one-party system was established, and Mobutu declared himself head of state. He periodically held elections in which he was the only candidate. Although relative peace and stability were achieved, Mobutu's government was guilty of severe human rights violations, political repression, a cult of personality, and corruption. Corruption became so prevalent the term le mal zaïrois, or Zairean sickness, meaning gross corruption, theft and mismanagement, was coined, reportedly by Mobutu himself. International aid, most often in the form of loans, enriched Mobutu while he allowed national infrastructure such as roads to deteriorate to as little as 1/4 of what had existed in 1960. Zaire became a kleptocracy, as Mobutu and his associates embezzled government funds. in a campaign to identify himself with African nationalism. Starting on 1 June 1966, Mobutu renamed the nation's cities. Leopoldville became Kinshasa, the country was now Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kinshasa, Stanleyville became Kisangani. Elizabethville became Lubumbashi, and Coquilhatville became Mbandaka. This renaming campaign was completed in the 1970s. In 1971, Mobutu renamed the country the Republic of Zaire, its fourth name change in 11 years and its sixth overall. The Congo River was renamed the Zaire River. During the 1970s and 1980s, he was invited to visit the United States on several occasions, meeting with U.S. Presidents Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan and George H. W. Bush. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, U.S. relations with Mobutu cooled, as he was no longer deemed necessary as a Cold War ally. Opponents within Zaire stepped up demands for reform. This atmosphere contributed to Mobutu's declaring the Third Republic in 1990, whose constitution was supposed to pave the way for democratic reform. The reforms turned out to be largely cosmetic. Mobutu continued in power until armed forces forced him to flee Zaire. In 1997, civil wars by 1996, following the Rwandan Civil War and genocide and the ascension of a Tutsi-led government in Rwanda, Rwandan Hutu militia forces fled to eastern Zaire and used refugee camps as a base for incursion against Rwanda. They allied with the Zairian armed forces to launch a campaign against Congolese ethnic Tutsis in eastern Zaire. A coalition of Rwandan and Ugandan armies invaded Zaire to overthrow the government of Mobutu, and ultimately to control the mineral resources of Zaire, launching the First Congo War. The coalition allied with some opposition figures, led by Laurent Désiré Kabila, becoming the Alliance des Forces Démocratiques pour la Libération du Congo Zaire. In 1997 Mobutu fled and Kabila marched into Kinshasa, naming himself president and reverting the name of the country to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kabila later requested that foreign military forces return to their own countries. He had concerns that the Rwandan officers running his army were plotting a coup in order to give the presidency to a Tutsi who would report directly to the Rwandan president, Paul Kagame. Rwandan troops retreated to Goma and launched a new Tutsi-led rebel military movement called the Rassemblement Congolais pour la Démocratie to fight against Kabila, while Uganda instigated the creation of new rebel movement called the Movement for the Liberation of Congo, led by the Congolese warlord Jean-Pierre Bemba. The two rebel movements, along with Rwandan and Ugandan troops, started the Second Congo War by attacking the DRC army in 1998. Angolan, Zimbabwean and Namibian militaries entered on the side of the government. Kabila was assassinated in 2001. His son, Joseph Kabila, succeeded him and called for multilateral peace talks. UN peacekeepers, MONUC, now known as MONUSCO, arrived in April 2001. Talks led to the signing of a peace accord in which Kabila would share power with former rebels. By June 2003 all foreign armies except those of Rwanda had pulled out of Congo. A transitional government was set up until the election was over. A constitution was approved by voters, and on 30 July 2006 DRC held its first multi-party elections. An election result dispute between Kabila and Jean-Pierre Bemba turned into an all-out battle between their supporters in the streets of Kinshasa. MONUC took control of the city. A new election took place in October 2006, which Kabila won, and on December 2006 he was sworn in as president. However, Laurent Nkunda, a member of an RCD branch integrated to the army, RCD Goma, defected along with troops loyal to him and formed the National Congress for the Defense of the People. which began an armed rebellion against the government, starting the Kivu conflict. They were believed to be again backed by Rwanda as a way to tackle the Hutu group, Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. The CNDP signed a peace treaty with the government in which it agreed to become a political party and to have its soldiers integrated into the National Army in exchange for the release of its imprisoned members. In 2012, the leader of the CNDP, Bosco Ntaganda, and troops loyal to him, mutinied and formed the rebel military March 23 movement, claiming a violation of the treaty by the government. In the resulting M23 rebellion, M23 briefly captured the provincial capital of Goma in November 2012. Neighboring countries, particularly Rwanda, have been accused of using rebels groups as proxies to gain control of the resource-rich country and of arming rebels, a claim they deny. In March 2013, the United Nations Security Council authorized the United Nations Force Intervention Brigade, the first offensive United Nations peacekeeping unit, to neutralize armed groups. On 5 November 2013, M23 declared an end to its insurgency. Additionally, in northern Katanga, the Mai created by Laurent Kabila slipped out of the control of Kinshasa, with Gedenkyoungu Mutanga's Mai Kaita Katanga briefly invading the provincial capital of Lubumbashi in 2013 and 400,000 persons displaced in the provinces of 2013. On-and-off fighting in the Ituri conflict occurred between the Nationalist and Integrationist Front and the Union of Congolese Patriots, who claimed to represent the Lendu and Hema ethnic groups, respectively. In the northeast, Joseph Kony's LRA moved from their original bases in Uganda and South Sudan to Dr. Congo in 2005 and set up camps in the Garamba National Park. In 2009, people in the Congo continued to die at a rate of an estimated 45,000 per month. Estimates of the number who have died from the long conflict range from 900,000 to 5,400,000. The death toll is due to widespread disease and famine. Reports indicate that almost half of the individuals who have died are children under 5 years of age. There have been frequent reports of weapon bearers killing civilians, of the destruction of property, of widespread sexual violence, causing hundreds of thousands of people to flee their homes, and of other breaches of humanitarian and human rights law. One study found that more than 400,000 women are raped in the Democratic Republic of Congo every year. In 2015, major protests broke out across the country and protesters demanded that Joseph Kabila step down as president. The protests began after the passage of a law by the Congolese lower house that, if also passed by the Congolese upper house, would keep Kabila in power at least until her national census was conducted. This bill passed. However, it was gutted of the provision that would keep Joseph Kabila in power until a census took place. A census is supposed to take place, but it is no longer tied to when the elections take place. As of 2015, update, elections are scheduled for late 2016 and a tenuous peace holds over the Congo.